All right. Let me see if I can get our other threads in here. I think those are the ones that we're looking for. And I think we got all green check marks. I think we're good to go here. Hey, everyone. Welcome into Building the Broncos for second week in a row. Coming in here with Mr. Luke Patterson. Luke, how you doing, buddy?
Good, man. I'm really good. We booked this show a couple of weeks ago, man. So I've really been looking forward to it. Like you said, we got some good momentum, back-to-back shows and back-to-back weeks. Really looking forward to a good show, man. You got a good topic that you picked tonight, and it's going to be great. Look, it's Building the Broncos, 6 p.m. Mountain here in Broncos country on the longest day of the year. June 21st. Now, it's also the first official day of summer, I think I saw on my calendar. But my wife and I, we were looking at this whole thing, this longest day of the year. And one would think, at least I would think, that that's going to be a significant amount of time, maybe 10 to 15 minutes. It's like 2 minutes. It's 1 to 2 minutes. So you're getting like basically seconds on the day. The last 2 weeks. I don't know. I'm a little fired up about it because I'm like, I feel like it should be more dramatic, 15, 30 minutes, but 2 minutes, longest day of the year. Here I'm Building the Broncos.
Well, there we go. I'm glad all of you could be joining us. I thought we'd take a little time, say hello to everybody in the chat here. And we got Mr. Dale Fleming coming in saying, evening, Carl, Scott, Dylan, and all Broncos country. Thank you very much. Of course, got Luke as well joining us here. I think Nick should be back tomorrow. Is that right?
Yep. Nick
possibly.
Yeah.
Okay. So
tomorrow on MHI at 6 p.m. Mountain.
There you go. We got Norman Hall coming in saying, hey, what's up? Always love the family pictures there. And let's see. We got Michael Ronquillo coming in as well saying, good evening, Broncos country. Let's ride and go Broncos. Michael, always good to see you in here. And let's see, we got Dylan, of course, in here as well saying, sup, Broncos country, make sure you hit that like button on the way in and subscribe if you haven't already. Yes, that is huge for us. I think we're already up to 8 on Facebook right now. I'd love to see that number get up there to the good old Terrell Davis 30. That's always my favorite one to see up there.
But, well, and speaking of Terrell Davis's 30, I just released it. Yours truly today released an article on Terrell Davis talking a little bit about Russell Wilson and the 2022 Denver Broncos. You can read about that at milehighhuddle.com. Once again, Building the Broncos tonight here at 6 p.m. Mountain. And Dylan's got an article up at milehighhuddle.com as well. Be sure to go ahead and check it out. It's answering whether the Broncos have enough depth at a specific position that they addressed last year in the draft. Maybe we'll go there on Building the Broncos per our topic. But our guy Dylan Von Arx, man, putting in hard work on the keyboard in addition to behind the scenes.
Right. And we also have Kathy coming in here as usual, say good evening, fam. Hope everyone is doing well. Kathy, we're doing great, and we're so glad that you're joining us. Jeff as well coming in saying hello, Carl, Luke, Dylan, and Broncos country. Hello to you as well, Jeff, and Greg Smith coming in here. Is that the Aqib Talib jersey?
It's a Talib jersey, I think, man. Yeah,
there you go. That's a good one. Good evening, Broncos country. That's one I think I would actually be willing to purchase. But we got Dom coming in as well saying, good evening, Luke, Carl, Scott, and Broncos country. Happy first day of summer, boys. DB for life. You know, it's
boom.
It's always kind of that happy, sad at the same time idea of I love summer. You know, kids at the swimming pool, getting out to the golf course, all those kind of things, but also means it's the longest month. No football for a month and a half here. But glad you guys could be joining us to get your little bit of a Broncos fill for the day. And we got Chase coming in as well saying BTB. Yes, that is exactly what we're doing here today. Loving. I got to get you one of these.
I know.
One of these days.
We got to trade hats. We got to do and I think I owe you a hat or some merchandise based on the fantasy stuff from last year. I'm not sure. Did you come out ahead on that?
I can't remember.
All right. Well, either way, you guys got to get your merch too on over at the huddleuppod.com store and get your swag on, as the boys from the Huddle Up Pod like to say. You can grab yourself a shirt, a t-shirt, a mug, baby clothing, gift for the gal, gift for the guy, gift for whoever, mom and dad, the serious Broncos fan. You'll find something that you love over at the huddleuppod.com store.
And I was wrong. It was not Aqib Talib. AJ Bouier.
You know, AJ Bouier, I'll never forget when Kareem Jackson knocked him out. That was one of the nastiest hits I've ever seen. AJ Bouier was just kind of a random free agent that passed through Denver, and his time was very underwhelming. I remember I was at the University of Colorado Pro Day when it was announced that he signed or got traded, or I'm not even sure really how that worked now that memory serves. Do you remember, was it a trade or a free agent?
I think he was a free agent.
Okay. I expected big things out of him. I really did, but happy trails. I'm not so sure. I don't even know if he's on a team right now.
I'm not sure, and I'm starting to see more and more, cornerbacks really, most of them become very scheme dependent in their ability, and it makes me wonder about, I know we're getting off topic here, but JC Jackson, the big signing for the Chargers, can he go from the Patriots that are known for what they can do with cornerbacks and making them be stars? Most of them, when they leave the Patriots, go to another team, not always a great big star, don't always live up to those big contracts. So be interesting to see how that one plays out. But I'm excited about that Broncos secondary. We might talk about that tonight here a little bit. But we got some other people coming in here real quick before we get to our main topic. We got Jason O'Neill. Good evening, Mile High Huddle team and Broncos country. Same to you. Howie frickin' day.
Yeah.
Always got to get him in here. Good evening, gents. Kevin Gray coming in. Evening, Broncos country. Carl and Luke, let's ride. That is right. And let's see, we got just a couple more. Then we'll get to our topic here. The pharmacist. Yo, Broncos country. So since Gronk is retiring, does that mean Edelman coming back?
Yeah.
You never know.
That's interesting, man. I was just watching NFL Network before hopping on here, and they're talking about Gronk. Maybe he gets the call week 6, week 7 from Tommy. Hey, we're Gronkowski away. Maybe he comes back, because I'm almost at the point where there are certain players in the NFL, like Rob Gronkowski, where you could almost treat them like basketball players in the NBA, where I don't know that Rob Gronkowski needs training camp, but then again, he needs training camp. Like, he doesn't need the day-to-day grind, especially on that body with that bad back when he was originally coming out of college, out of Arizona. But he's going to go down as one of the best tight ends ever of all time. And it pains me to say that, especially having Shannon Sharp in the orange and blue. I mean, that's a Hall of Famer we're talking about right there, and yelling at Skip Bayless and everything else like that. We still love Shannon. But man, Rob Gronkowski, I heard an interesting stat. He caught approximately, it was like a 19.5 or 19.6% of Tom Brady's touchdown passes in his career. And that is just insane to me. I mean, he is part of that legacy with Tommy Boy. And it pains me to say it, man. I mean, so many good games against Gronk, some really bad ones too, where the Broncos definitely got dominated. But you can never forget Chris Harris Jr. smacking Gronk and Broncos defense just taking him out in that playoff game in 2015. It was just a thing of beauty.
For sure. All right, we got Phil as well coming in here. Always good to see Phil with stars. Thank you so much, Phil. Evening, Carl, Luke, and Scott. Hope Nick didn't get caught in the storm that went through the Midwest. Hashtag let's ride. Hashtag MHH for life. I'm hoping so as well. I live in the Midwest, and it's very, very cloudy here today. I was a little worried that my kids' baseball game was going to get canceled, but so far they're out there playing real quick. Hopefully They can get the full game in before the whole storm comes through. And Phil, thank you so much for the support here. And
Phil.
Like I said, hopefully Nick is back tomorrow, getting his chance to share everything that's going on and getting the chance to meet up with you once again. I'll be sad not to be on the show with you, but I understand.
Well,
we got Gary.
We'll make some more dates happen. We like mixing it up on MHH, man. And I get Broncos country that it's a really tough time right now between training camp, but the action is not stopping here at MHH. And head on over to milehighhuddle.com and check out all this exclusive content, man. I mean, we're not going to be charging anybody subscription, anything like that. Go check out all of the work because it's up to the minute coverage. We've got guys like our guy Keith literally writing while we sleep, and that's one of the coolest things about MHH. I absolutely love, just like I absolutely love our guy GLP, Gary Leeds Palmer, always supporting MHH extremely consistently and very generously, saying hi, Carl and Luke. I can't wait for this new season. Go Broncos. Let's ride. Let's ride, Gary. Thank you so much for your support.
And all right, we got Hunter coming in saying, brand new fan of the Mile High Huddle. You guys are great. Wish I found you earlier. Hey, better late than never. That's what I always say. So I'm glad that you're here with us. You can head over there to the huddleuppod.com, get your swag on, get some of the stuff that we're wearing here today. And there's plenty more for, the kids, for the wife, for the husband, whoever you want to support out there. And Dom coming in saying MHH is the best podcast for our Denver Broncos info. Wow. I completely agree. It's always fun to listen to these, and we like each other, which is always helpful, and we love the Broncos, and it's just, this is so much fun for us just to get these kind of opportunities to talk with you guys, and so that kind of brings us. I want to talk about a little something, because this is Building the Broncos. This is kind of that time where when Nick and I first were thinking of this podcast, we were thinking about how do you build the Broncos team? How would we do it if we were the GM kind of thing? And so, obviously the team's pretty set on what they're going to be for their 90-man roster. But I kind of thought we'd maybe talk about one position that we think maybe needs somebody else. Usually you have kind of one of those late offseason signings that maybe turns into something, maybe becomes a decent player for you. And then maybe a position that the Broncos could also trade from, that maybe has that depth that leads it to where, like last year, the Broncos had wide receiver depth galore, and were able to trade a wide receiver for a 5th-round pick. And that wide receiver went off to Detroit, and I think he had like 3 catches for the season. Yeah. So it worked out great for the Broncos, obviously. But yeah, I just thought we'd start with that. So let's start with position that you think maybe needs somebody else. And if there's any names you have off the top of your head, maybe that you think would be good for that position, what are you looking at?
So I'm really trying to be more disciplined in my life, Carl, in terms of trying to be healthier mentally, physically, all sorts of these things. So try to prepare a little bit for BTB and give Broncos country a little bit of some options, not to initially panic anybody, but the pass rusher position needs some help. I have all the faith in the world in Baron Browning, but he's essentially a rookie again on the edge, having a rookie year. And that's because your new guy, Gregory, he's busted up. Randy Gregory with that elbow surgery. We don't know when he's going to be back. Could possibly be ready for training camp. He might miss training camp. We just don't know. And then you look at Bradley Chubb and the injury history there. Now, Bradley Chubb, knock on wood, is feeling great, doing good things in the mandatory minicamp, the voluntary OTAs. Guys cannot say enough good things about Bradley Chubb, but his injury history is what it is. And then you look at another guy like Malik Reed, who's played okay, but I don't want to just stick with that. Jonathan Cooper, I love. Baron Browning's teammate out of Ohio State. I would love to have both of those guys on the edge crashing in at the same time. Maybe that's something we see. But, Carl, I really feel like we need a veteran pass rusher in the wake of the Von Miller trade. You need an age-old veteran, the old man, so to speak. I was watching NFL last weekend, NFL Network, and they're doing a Charles Woodson, A Football Life, and he's talking about how everybody calls him the old man. Well, we need an old man in the D-end room, and some of those old men could be Jason Pierre-Paul, who is available as an unrestricted free agent, Carl Nassib, who was with the Las Vegas Raiders last year, little bit younger, not as old or large in the tooth, if you will. Carlos Dunlap is available, and Ryan Kerrigan is also available. Now, I know that we need to talk about scheme and figure out if those guys would truly fit Evero's scheme, but to me, the pass rushing position definitely needs some help. It's a position of concern.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, it's the position that could surprise everybody. If Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory can both stay healthy, and Bonito coming in here as the rookie, and Baron Browning come off the edge,
miss
maybe
Nick
those
Bonito?
guys.
Our first pick, dude, our first pick. And that's maybe a little bit of me just kind of speaking like an idiot, like I usually do. But at the same time, right, when I'm hearing George Payton say, Nick Bonito, we got to get him in the weight room. We got to put weight on him. He's not quite, he's saying he's not ready without saying he's not ready. And that just concerns me, especially because he's so young. I mean, I think this is a kid who could have a bright future, but man, he's got a really tough division in front of him, Carl.
Yeah, he does. And so I'm hoping he gets a year to develop. He needs it. If the Broncos are counting on him to start this season, they're in trouble. Teams are going to target him in the run game like crazy. He's, like I said, he's undersized. He's got to get in the weight room. He's got to get some weight on his body, and he's got to get better with his hand usage, his technique. he kind of relied on his athleticism to win in college, which, I mean, you can win on athleticism in college still. I mean, you need a little something more, but still he could do plenty. And so you're right. There's a position. I wouldn't mind them adding somebody else to especially just clear up some of that back end and just make you feel better if there is an injury, that you have a starter quality guy that can come in and be consistent for you. I wanted to kind of go pretty much same position, but let's move inward a little bit into your defensive line.
All right.
I just, obviously, I like Draymond Jones. Love the guy. Love DJ Jones. Love the starters. The guys behind them, Mike Purcell, he was kind of up and down last year, had his injuries as well. I don't know if he's going to make this roster or not, just because more of his contract than his play. If you can save a few bucks, and then you got Jonathan Harris, Ajim had a few splash plays last year, but you don't know if he can be a true gamer if he was called on to be a starter someday. Yeah. And then you got your draft picks, but that's one of those positions that it takes time to develop. Like, most guys don't come in as rookies on the interior defensive line and dominate.
Like Aaron Donald.
So, yeah, exactly. But it does. It just takes time to become a stud on the inside. And so I wouldn't mind them adding some kind of veteran. I mean, I know they had Sue on, I think it was NFL Network or one of them, and he was talking about going to the Raiders or something like that. And I was like, hey, how about you just come a little further east and see what you can do for the Broncos? Something like that. Ogunjobi is another one.
I don't know. I don't know about that, man. I could be wrong. Maybe I was just reading like the tabloid headlines or whatever on Twitter, but I think he even, Ndamukong Suh, I think he even took a shot at Garrett Bowles maybe in there. I'm not sure. Maybe I'm totally wrong on that, but man, Ndamukong Suh, he's the guy that you need that's like a total dirtbag on the field, right? That's just a jerk. He's the Dennis Rodman that you kind of need, a Bill Romanowski, right? That you kind of need. So I guess I could go there, right? Because the guy does play fairly consistent, especially into his age. And speaking of defensive line, per Adam Schefter, former Bengals defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi has signed a 1-year deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those Steelers just find defensive linemen, edge rushers, everything defense. I'm done with them. We're asking about defensive line. How do we supplement it? And the Steelers, they either draft them or they just sign them, trade them, or whatever, man. They always have these gritty positions, and I want the Broncos to get back to it. I think it's telling if I'm picking the perimeter rushers and you're picking the inside D line, that's a concern, Broncos country.
Yeah. Like I said, if people are healthy and play up to the potential that we've put on them to be great players, then the Broncos could be really great on the defensive line. But most of the time, teams don't live up to quite that potential. That somebody gets hurt or somebody just isn't quite what you thought they were going to be, and so when you're playing the if game, especially on the interior or on the defensive line, that's a bad thing to be doing. So it'll be crazy to see. But we got Andrew Baker coming in here with some stars. Thank you so much, Andrew, saying, "What's up, Carl, Luke, Scott, and fam? What is going to be Russ's best play deep ball, slot or RPO? Hashtag MHH for life."
Wow. That's a great question, Andrew. Thank you so much for the support. Andrew, you've been with me and Nick and Carl and all of MHH since the beginning, man. We really appreciate that. What do I think? Man, Russ loves going for the deep ball. I mean, he just absolutely loves it, but I think he can also reinvent himself. It's something I argue with Nick about all the time, is the tight end position, especially with Russ. And he's a good argument at me and says, well, Russ doesn't really traditionally use tight ends. Go watch the film, and he's right. But two things can be true at once, right? So I throw back, hey, who do you have as a tight end in Seattle? You know what I mean? So I could see Russell Wilson truly reinventing himself and taking those quick yards, especially working with Peyton Manning. You can find a story about that on milehighhuddle.com. I think Keith, our guy, wrote that one up, if I'm not mistaken. But you don't go broke taking a profit, and Russell Wilson knows that, especially studying with Peyton.
Yeah, and like you said, what tight ends has he really played with? When he has had a tight end that he's trusted, he actually had one tight end that finished top 5 in targets of
Can I
tight
guess?
ends. Yes.
Jimmy Graham?
Yes.
Boom.
So he had one season where when he trusted that tight end, that's exactly where he wanted to go over and over and over again. And so if the Broncos tight ends, whoever's going to be the starter, we don't know exactly for sure, probably Okwuegbunam. He's been having a pretty good offseason so far. Maybe we get to that point where he's maybe not top 5 in targets, but if he can be top 15, you got to feel pretty good about that. And I think also he's had wide receivers that could go run those deep routes for him. And that's what he wants to do. That's where he wants to target. He hasn't really had the tight ends always run those deep routes. Well, what did Okwuegbunam do at the combine? Ran a 4.5 40. Dulcich, what can he do? That man can get off the line in a hurry. He can win down the field. And so I think both those guys fit well with what Russell Wilson wants to do. When we're talking about the RPO, though, I do kind of question how much the Broncos are going to run that, just because Russell Wilson's never been a big, like, quick hitter passer. You know, he's wanting to hold on to that ball as long as possible. And RPO is a lot about timing and trying to either get that ball out as quick as possible. You know, you're faking the handoff, boom, throwing it. I'm not sure that's exactly his game. Now, I think they're going to bring some of that into this because they ran a ton of that in Green Bay. And so you got to know Coach Hackett is sitting there going, we got to do this. This worked great in Green Bay. And so I'm sure they're working on some of it. But I think you're going to see a lot more of those slot fades because you got 3 wide receivers, honestly, really 4 wide receivers that can run from that slot fade route and do well with it.
Yeah, I think that's a good point for sure. You got to look at a marriage between what Russ wants to do and what Nathaniel Hackett and Justin Outen want to do with this offense. And I think you could see RPO in a very situational type thing. I'm thinking specifically in the playoffs or a big significant game. You're not just going to see it in the regular season because teams are going to start planning for those things that you put on film. The RPO, I don't know about it for Russ, and I'm okay with it. Whatever Russ wants to do, we'll go with that. But I want to say what's up to a couple of the fellas in the chat here. Not Rusty Shackelford. I was thinking about you the other day because I was watching King of the Hill, Carl. I don't know if you realize, but King of the Hill is on this like endless loop sometimes on Cartoon Network, and I can't get enough of King of the Hill. It's like this dry Mike Judge humor. I absolutely love it, man. I think it's like a lost treasure of, like animated series. I love King of the Hill.
Yeah, we got a couple people in the chat asking, what is RPO? That is a run pass option kind of play. And so you're trying to really isolate the defense. You're playing off of usually that edge player or the linebacker, one of the two, and trying to see, are they crashing down on the run game? If they are, quarterback pulls it out, throws it. If they're not crashing down, hand it off. Usually you got yourself a nice little carry. And so you're making a player have to make a decision, and then you're taking them out of the play. And so it's limiting, honestly, some of the decisions that a quarterback has to make. There's about 3 decisions real quick, boom, boom, boom. Instead of having to scan the entire field, go from target 1, target 2, target 3, target 4, it's, do I hand it off here, or am I hitting this player right here in a pass? Or am I taking off running too? And I mean, Russell Wilson can do that. So that you got 3 options there of what you could be doing on that play.
Yeah, and you've got leverage-based RPOs, you've got movement-based RPOs. There are so many different variations of the RPO, numbers-based RPOs. I mean, so many of them. But if you really want to dive into it as a casual fan, that's a really good question, Robert, and I appreciate that question. And don't ever be afraid to spill out a question, and we'll try to answer it on the comment line, because you're going to hear that term a lot when you're watching Cardinals games with Kyler Murray. You watch Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson. You're going to see some of that with Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills as well. So many different variations of offense have it. And I think the old adage of a guy who runs the RPO because he can't read the field is definitely not right. It's inaccurate. You look at Josh Allen and you look at his game. You look at Lamar Jackson, and he's evolved his game. He was that guy. And then now you start to see him reading the field better and quicker, and he needs to improve to get to that Josh Allen, Justin Herbert type level. But there's no question that the RPO is so significant in today's NFL because it keeps defenses guessing.
for sure. And especially when you got those athletic quarterbacks, take advantage of it.
Yeah.
Force teams have to really pay attention to him, keep somebody else looking forward, keep their guys looking forward instead of having to be able to turn and run with wide receivers. You're kind of forcing the hand of where a team's going to be able to go. But we got Travis Weber coming in. Always good to see you, Travis.
What's up, Trav?
Saying, good evening, Carl, Luke, Scott, and Broncos country. What do you think the odds of Malik Reed being trade commodity, since with Browning now is on the edge? This is kind of continuing on that conversation that we were having earlier. I don't see him being a great trade commodity unless he really blows up in the preseason and teams are just kind of going crazy with injuries at the edge position and going, we got to get somebody in here that has some starting experience, because he does have that. He does have some decent stats, kind of. I mean, he's got a lot of sacks, not a whole lot of like consistent pressure, but I think you saw how the rest of the NFL viewed him in the sense of Broncos let him kind of test the market for a second and nobody bit. And then the Broncos finally gave him the restricted free agent tag because they were just kind of thinking, oh, well, he'll go. And it didn't happen. And they're like, well, he's still okay because we still need something at this position. So I think it's kind of, like I said, the rest of the league has shown they just don't view him as this huge player that they got to get.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you talked about signing that tender. It was a 1-year, $2.43 million tender, which means he will be an unrestricted free agent at age 27. Here's the thing, and I like Malik Reed a lot. I don't want to catch any flack, but I probably will. And I'm just going to tell the truth. If Malik Reed was not a Denver Bronco and the whole undrafted story and stuff like that, I don't know. Maybe he's just another guy in the league. I mean, maybe he's just a Jag right now, just a Jag player for the Denver Broncos. Obviously, he's had the Shaq Barrett comparisons at times because he's trying to fill those shoes, and I don't think that's accurate. Malik Reed is that. I think people want to say poor man's Von Miller with his body type and stuff like that. But when you look at the pass rushers of the 2022 NFL defense, you even look at Nick Bonito, they're not built like Von Miller. Von Miller is one of a kind. He's Gumby. Yeah. No one can do the things that Von Miller has previously done. I don't know if he's still going to do them up there in Buffalo. But that's really, really tough with Malik Reed, man. I mean, he's a player that I like, but he could be on the bubble here. If the Broncos figure out a surging pass rusher, Baron Browning's just absolutely dominating. Jonathan Cooper comes into camp extremely motivated and ready to go. I think you got some rookie defensive ends as well. But either way, man, the pass rushing and the defensive line position, they tried to supplement that, right? George Paton put a huge priority in that in free agency with Jones, with all of the different options that he's bringing to this defensive line in the draft with Nick Bonito and Brandy Gregory. I mean, but then again, you got a little bit of egg on your face with that injury with Gregory.
Yeah, I mean, they say they knew it going in, so I guess they're okay with it.
Maybe they did.
Yeah, I'm sure they knew something, obviously. I mean, they put them through all the medical tests and all that, so I'm sure they knew something. But obviously, they're taking a risk. They decided all these other guys, these top pass rushers that were going off the market, going for $18, $20 million a year, Von Miller getting his absolutely crazy contract. They're going, we're going to take a risk. We're going to take this guy that's going to be cheaper with higher risk, higher injuries, higher off-the-field issues, and we're just going to hope that all of that just disappears. And this is the risk you take when you go bargain bin shopping. Every once in a while, you find something great. And then usually it's not that case. I think of Emmanuel Sanders. Broncos didn't pay a whole lot for him. And all of a sudden he comes in, stays healthy, becomes this great player for him, becomes a 1,000-yard wide receiver, one of the most consistent guys that you can trust on third down to go up and make that tough catch. Sometimes you get lucky that way, but other times you get the Juwan James where he has all this injury history and you say, okay, we're going to take a chance. And then he plays like 30 snaps. So,
and that truly is worst case scenario. You're right. When you said like bargain shopping, I immediately thought, that clearance rack aisle in the back of the grocery store that has like the 2-day-old donuts that are on sale for 50 cents or a dented can of green beans on sale for 33. Maybe you find yourself some toothpaste there for $1 or $2 less, right? Whatever. Then again, you run the chance of getting some gnarlier products back there as well. You're hardly going to find that gem in the bargain bin, but when you do, it's great, but you can't rely on it, I think is your point, Carl. I mean, you've seen time and time again when pass rushers go down on this team. I mean, Bradley Chubb and Von Miller have hardly played together. They hardly played together in their career when Von was still here. And one of them was constantly injured while the other was off or healthy. And that just, I don't know. I think George Paton understands the significance here, and that's why there's such a plethora of pass rushers. I mean, you go to the Broncos roster right now, and you'll see 5 or 6 pass rushers, I think, right there on the team. There's some undrafted guys that I'm not mentioning, but again, they're non-proven, right? And if you're not proven, then there's a huge question at the position.
Yeah. So it's like I said, it's a high risk of what the Broncos are doing. If they stay healthy, play up to that potential, Broncos really could have one of the top pass rushes in football. You know, Draymond Jones, Randy Gregory was one of the best play-for-play pass rushers last year. Bradley Chubb, when he's been healthy, has been a pretty darn dominant pass rusher in the NFL. Obviously, he was top 5 pick for a reason. So it'll be interesting to see if those guys can live up to that. But Dale Fleming saying Jonas Griffith has the size and strength. Jewell has the knowledge. He can teach Griffith and give us a smart beast at inside linebacker. Yeah, I've seen some people talking that they would view inside linebacker as a position that we need to add somebody to the position. And I get that with especially moving Baron Browning, you know, guy that actually looked pretty good last year at off-ball linebacker, showed some huge potential. And now all of a sudden you're moving him to another position, hoping that he can do the same thing there. And, but I love Jonas Griffith, and I'm a huge fan of Josie Jewell. I do. I like the guy. I think he plays above what people realize. I think before he got hurt last year, he was looking pretty darn good in the NFL. I know they weren't playing great teams, but I mean, the guy knows what he's doing on the field. I think you're seeing some of this of, you know, all these athletic linebackers that come into the NFL, how many of them just completely fail because they don't have the instincts to play the position. Yeah. And then you got Josie Jewell, who's sitting there getting everybody up in line, and he's the guy that's going, okay, the play's going right here before the ball snapped. Boom, it's already going there. So he's already got the first step going in the right direction.
He has to have that first step because he's not athletic enough to get the second. And that's not me throwing shade. That's just being honest. And it really is a compliment to Josie Jewell when you hear George Paton go up there and just talk about basically spitting sweet nothingness, you know, into the mic over Josie Jewell. The coaches love him. The players love him. I think he's a little, I'm going to say overrated, if I'm going to be honest. I think that, you know, having a gentleman, having a good player goes a long way with a fan base. But when you're limited athletically inside at the linebacker position, and I'm with you, I love Baron Browning at the inside linebacker. I worry about him transitioning to edge. This is something they did with him at Ohio State. And yeah, that made him a good player. That allowed him to get drafted, but I saw it at the Senior Bowl too. Sure, he can rush the edge. A lot of linebackers, I think, could rush the edge, specifically on the outside. But when you start messing with the guy too much, I mean, again, this is like Baron Browning having another rookie year, essentially, on the pass rushing position. He's not Micah Parsons that can do these freaky things, you know, and just hop from edge to linebacker wearing the green dot, all those different things. Although Baron Browning did wear that green dot. But for me, you got to supplement the position. You really do. I get Singleton is in the house. Jonas Griffin has been getting a lot of love, a ton of love. I've been asking about him. I can't seem to put my finger just on it, but people are really liking this cat. I want to see a little more before I fall in love with him. But the Broncos, doesn't it feel like time in and time out, they always need an inside linebacker? It's not something they ever really seem to address.
Yeah, I mean, clear back to when John Elway came here. Everybody was going inside linebacker, take him in the first. And then like the earliest he ever took one was 3rd round, I think. Right. If I remember right, early at his time. And he's never valued the position. And
like Nick. He's like Nick Kendall. He's like our guy. He's never valued the linebacker position or running backs. But no, our guy that, speaking of value, Andrew Baker, we value his friendship and his support so much. And coming up with a good question here, Andrew, who should be our best PR or
pass rusher?
Yeah, who should be our best pass rusher? Bradley Chubb is looking good. They signed big for Randy Gregory, and they're moving Baron Browning to edge. And Burrito, laugh out loud, nice depth though. Who should be the best one? You're looking at Chubb, Gregory, Browning, or Nick Casa Benito. It's got to be Bradley Chubb for me. It's time, Brad. I mean, come on. You know what, or get off the pot. And injury history is injury history. Injuries have retired more guys in the NFL than Social Security. And it's just one of these things. It's the reality of what we live in. I know he's been dealt a little bit of a bad hand, but Rob Gronkowski's out there playing with like scoliosis. Okay. And he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Get out there, Chubb. You can do it.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Randy Gregory. I mean, last year when he was on the field, he was per snap one of the top 10 best pass rushers in the NFL. Now, obviously didn't show up in the sack total, but that guy was getting after the quarterback. And I can see that again here with the Broncos. He's going to have multiple opportunities to get after the quarterback and really showcase that he can be one of those top 10 guys in football. If he can stay healthy, I really think he's going to finish as one of those highlight top 10 pass rushers in football this year.
He better be, especially for the money. And speaking of money, Dale Fleming is money. John Mobley, that's a name and a player I haven't thought about in so long. John Mobley played inside linebacker, didn't he? And he was really, really good. Same with Danny Trevathan, if I remember correctly. Yeah, memory serves very well, Dale. You got a memory like an elephant because that's spot on. I mean, John Mobley, was it the John Mobley special teams hit that really kind of jacked him up? I feel like I was a kid and it was a game in Buffalo, and I think he was on the kickoff unit. And why he was on the kickoff unit is beyond me. It was a different era. But I think John Mobley ran down there and just laid the wood on some poor Buffalo Bill and had neck surgeries, injuries, stuff like that, kind of ended his career. And same with Smoke Dog Al Wilson, right? And Danny Trevathan, you're exactly right. Danny Trevathan was one of the huge unsung heroes of that 2015 Super Bowl 50 roster.
Yeah, I think of the 2013 season, where all those guys went down with injury. Von Miller got suspended. Chris Harris got hurt.
Yeah.
All those guys went down, and Trevathan was the one guy kind of keeping that defense together, making a few plays. Like, he just made plays when they absolutely needed one. And he was really the heart of that defense for a long time. And then, they added more guys there 2014 that kind of became more the heart and the attitude that you needed. But Trevathan, again, always in the right place, had the athleticism, very underrated player. You always had all the big names that everybody talked about. But Trevathan, I think, was one of those players that really took them over the top to become a historical defense.
Well, and I always wondered if he'd circle back around. I think that was kind of the hope for a long time in Broncos country, is maybe we'll see Danny Trevathan after his Chicago days. And, especially with Vic over here coming from Chicago, maybe, he wraps his hand around Danny Trevathan. It just didn't work out that way, but we'll always have Super Bowl 50. And that is something to be super pumped about. Broncos country, we're pumped. You guys are joining us here on Building the Broncos, Tuesday, June 21st, the longest day of the year and the first official day of summer, if you will. We're getting into some positions of depth that we feel like the Broncos are good at. Maybe they can trade away. We're going to announce that here in just a couple minutes, but we're also talking about competition. How can we improve positions? Let us know in the comment line, and we will read your chat.
Yeah, I wanted to get to this. Clayton coming in saying, wow, long time no see, Luke and Carl. Been working crazy hours. So remember, guys, smash that like button and share, guys. We're up to 26 up there, at least on Facebook. I know we got more on YouTube and everything else, but really appreciate all you guys with that kind of support. If you're on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe, like, and share all that we're doing here. It is a huge help. We appreciate all the stars and super chats and all that, but really just being able to get it out there. And it's always fun being able to go out there and meet people that watch our show and say, oh yeah, I found you this way. We had somebody earlier saying, I just found MHH. That's part of how they get found or how they find us. And so again, if you guys can do that, we really appreciate it. Clayton, good to see you again. Glad you're getting those crazy hours in. Hopefully maybe things slow down for you a little bit. But again, appreciate all of you joining us here today, even during this crazy downtime that I know can be slow. Hopefully we can help speed that up for you a little bit and just keep you getting excited about the season for sure. But like I said, let's switch over to position of strength. that maybe has that depth that you can look at a guy and say, hey, that's the guy I could see somebody being interested in, and the Broncos really wanting to build up that draft capital that they don't have right now. Is there a position that kind of sticks out to you?
Yeah, I'm just going to take a shot because it's low hanging fruit. Melvin Gordon, get out of here. Let's just say that seriously, I retweeted the viral video going on today of like some senior citizen smashing an alligator that's trying to attack him with a pan. I don't know if you've seen that. And I'm like, this is what I want to do every time someone says Javonte needs to share the workload or he's not the featured back. If Melvin Gordon is here for the reason I think he is, it's to just keep the tread on the tire safe for Javonte Williams. But let's say you have a Derrick Henry situation like you did last year. Derrick Henry's coming off of a really good rehab, but if he goes down and he's the Titans offense, you need another running back. What's his trade value? I don't know. But if I'm being more realistic, Carl, I want to go tight end here, actually. I'm looking at a lot of tight ends in the room, and Albert O is definitely a name that is on the rise. I'm wondering if teams are curious about Albert O. Let's say you get Albert O with another young quarterback. I don't want him in this division. No way would I trade him away to the Chargers or anything like that. But you look at guys that are currently on the team. We talked about Greg Dulcich, who was just drafted out of UCLA, being that vertical threat, the same as Albert O in terms of that vertical aspect. Totally different bodies, totally different skill sets, but really the same result. Andrew Beck, he's a fullback / tight end, but you'll see him definitely motioned out at the wide position as well. Eric Saubert is back. Eric Tomlinson is here. So it's a deep tight end room, and tight end has traditionally been a position the Broncos have struggled at in terms of injury. Jake Butt, and specifically for Big Ten tight ends, right? But I'm curious about that Greg Dulcich pick. It just screams Russell Wilson to me. And if Russell Wilson sees something in a young tight end and he doesn't use the tight end, that makes me really curious. And I'm not saying I would trade Albert O or I'm shopping him, but I'm leaving the phone on. I'm paying my electric bill so that phone is able to ring if it needs to.
Yeah, I'm with you. If somebody comes and offers a day 2 pick for him, how do you pass that up? I think that would be great to see. I doubt anybody comes and offers that. Yeah. And so he's probably more valuable to you than he is to any other team. But like I said, you never know. Sometimes teams just get crazy, an injury or two happens, and they see this Super Bowl window. You know, you look at the Rams last year for Von Miller, trading a 2nd and 3rd round pick for a guy that has an expiring contract. They don't know if they're going to, obviously they didn't even get him signed.
No,
they just traded a 2nd, 3rd round pick for 8 games and a Super Bowl. Yeah. They don't care. I mean, they helped them win a Super Bowl. So good for them, but still, like, that's a lot to give up for a rental. Yeah. And so sometimes teams get a little bit antsy and just want to go and prove to their fans, hey, we're trying. We're really working hard here. I'm going to go interior offensive line. Ooh. I know everybody is kind of worried about the offensive line, and I get it. But at the same time,
hold on a minute. You can't get on my guy Dalton. He just got married. He's in the honeymoon phase of life. Whatever you do not take a shot at my guy.
I'm not going to take a shot just at him, but more the entire position, in the sense of you got a lot of guys with starting experience. You just redid the contract for Glasgow, who has starting experience, left guard, right guard, center. So he's a great depth piece, if not a starter. You got Moody, who had a few starts last year, had a few really big splash plays. I've heard he's looked really good in minicamp and OTAs. I mean, I know they're not doing any kind of hitting or anything like that, or hard hitting, I should say. So I get that. You're still going to have to wait until the pads come on to really make a decision there. You got Dalton Reisner, of course. You're not getting rid of the belly by any means. No. He's going to be here. You got Cushenberry as well, that has all these starting, all these starts to his career. Maybe they sit there and say, Glasgow, we want you at center, bud. And maybe you can get a 5th, 6th round pick for a center that has all this time on the field. I don't know. I just feel like there's somebody that you're looking at and going, can we keep all these guys? Probably not. When you're looking at roster bubble situations. And so one of these guys could end up being traded just for a late round pick.
Yeah, perhaps. the competition is definitely thick there, and maybe the odd man sitting out would be on his way out of Denver. But you bring up some good points. I mean, Dalton Risner has got to play more consistent. That is for sure. Netani Moody, same thing, different skill set, and it's not good enough. But I will say this: when I hear Russell Wilson saying, Lloyd Cushenberry, people don't appreciate this cat. He's out there doing 900 snaps with us, the only old lineman there. Russ doesn't go out of his way to say things, and I think he is a very honest person. And when Russ is kind of handpicking the center, I think that's what we've got right now with Cush. I think they're trusting Russ to help Cush. He's not going to be like Drew Lock under center, where Cush is as a rookie pointing out the Mike linebacker. Just not that level anymore. This is something that has got to be addressed, though, because Cush hasn't been good enough either. I mean, so that interior offensive line, nothing solidified other than Quinn Miners is a hell of a road grader. His pass pro has got to improve. I get that Netani Moody might be a little bit stronger on the bench, but I wrote an article about a month ago, and Quinn talked about losing 5 to 10 pounds of fat. And the guy is looking the belly, right? But when you look at that belly up close, it's kind of weird, right? He's kind of built like a warthog, man, just not sloppy, but just a big tank. I'm curious to see what he could do in his year 2. It's going to be a very competitive offensive line room, and I think that's good for Broncos country.
Yeah, and I have heard a few rumors, Thompson that they brought in
Billy
49ers. That
Compton.
Compton. That he is another one that they're looking on the interior as well. Like they're going to give him his chance at right tackle, but I've heard that they're also going to try him on interior as well because of his run blocking.
That's not good. He's tall. My guy Russ needs to, see over him still. And I know, I would never dare say that to Russ. But it's true. I mean, Russ does maneuver around the pocket, and I don't think it's just his playing style. It's sometimes you got to be able to see. It's as simple as that. And the man's a Hall of Fame quarterback, so I'm not taking any shots. I'm happy to have Russ here. But that cat, if memory serves, I think Compton's a pretty tall dude.
He is. But I think, like I said, I think they're going to just kind of try guys all around and just see who are the best 5 that we can get on the field. And, I would love, Moody, when you're looking at like him at left guard, Miners at right guard, those guys up the middle, moving people, like that would be kind of fun to see. I understand like the zone blocking scheme. Maybe that's going to be a little bit tough with those big boys trying to move. But like I said, Quinn Miners losing some weight. Maybe Moody's trying to do the same thing to make sure that he can fit in with what they're trying to do. I'm very interested to see how that all plays out, to see what kind of direction they're willing to go and with all of this. And, your boy Risner, his rookie year, he played in a zone scheme here with the Broncos, and it looked pretty good. Like that was his best year. Everybody was sitting there going, this guy is heading in the right direction. He's maybe going to be a Pro Bowl guard here in the future. And then the Broncos, of course, switched schemes there a little bit. Obviously they still ran some zone, but he didn't quite look the same after that. And so I'm interested to see, again, how he does now that they're back in more maybe his natural set of things.
I feel terrible making excuses for him, but I'm just going to say it. When Dalton Risner was a rookie, he was calling out who to block for Garrett Bowles. These things were happening. He doesn't have to do that anymore. So you take, a Dalton Risner, his rookie year, who's checking on his left tackle because he knows the playbook and the defense is better than Garrett did at the time. And then the next year he's got a rookie center next to him. Right. And I'm sure he's trying to make up some of the difference there. So I think injury has definitely been an issue for Dalton too. He's a tough bird, and I don't think he's going to tell you that he's hurt, but he's got to play better. In no way, shape, or form should anyone's position on that offensive line be solidified other than Garrett Bowles. And even he's taken a really good approach to it, saying, I've got to come in and compete. He gets it. And I like that a lot, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw just a little bit of regression with Garrett Bowles. I think you saw it last year. But he's got Russell Wilson. And when you look at a guy that at the same time, his strength, Russell Wilson, being able to hang on to the ball and make the most out of every second, that strength could be another guy's weakness, particularly on the offensive line, right? How do you buy time for Russ? Russ buys his own time. And I would just worry about Garrett wanting to protect his guy so much that we might regress just a tad back to that holding situation just because of the nature of Russ wanting to extend the play.
I do wonder also, the Russ effect of, last year, how many times the teams load up the box and then you're trying to figure out on a passing play who's coming. When you got 8 guys right there near the line of scrimmage, it's kind of hard to tell. Where teams now might have to back off and give away a little bit more what they're trying to do on defense to stop the pass, might make things a little bit easier up front trying to figure out who's coming at them. So I hope that's the case. I think it really should be. I always remember with Peyton Manning, teams stopped trying. I mean, they didn't stop trying, but they kind of got where they realized the more we try to trick him, the more we just kind of trick ourselves. And so they almost kind of just said, we just got to kind of hope that maybe something bad happens, and we're just going to hope that it slows down something. But, I think of teams trying to do the last second switch, from 2 deep safety to 1 coming down or something like that. And he's like, oh, thank you.
Yeah, it never worked. And yeah, man, I'm good with it. You want to stack the box against Russ? Let's do it. That's where I'm at. I think then Russ becomes a whole new weapon in his own because of the most important muscle that we have in the body, and that's our brain. Russ can see these things. He's going to prepare for these things. And if you want to bring it on for Russell Wilson in that pass rush, man. But this offense is definitely going to mature, mold together, if you will. These are so many different elements, and we're just talking about quarterback O-line here. We're not talking about the receivers and their preferences. We're not talking about the tight end, really, some of the running backs. And I love Javonte, right? Who doesn't? But when Javonte and they're asking Javonte, who is, for all intents and purposes, not a great interview. And I love that about him because he just doesn't really seem like he wants to talk. And I'm good with that. I don't want my running back. We already have 1 flash. All right. I don't need any more. And Javonte's just saying, look, as a running back, a system's a system. There's not a lot of change for us. And I absolutely love that approach. It's a north-south approach. And I think Mike Boone is going to be a real treasure in training camp. Do not be surprised to see him make an impact on special teams as well. But Carl, if I'm hearing it right, offensive line, defensive line, we're kind of flip-flopping a little here in this in this argument as to depth, possible players that maybe we could see the Broncos trading. Is there an offensive lineman that maybe you would be interested in kicking the tires on via a trade or maybe free agency? I don't know how many guys are really out there, maybe some old dogs, but trade.
It's mostly old dogs. I mean, you got Dwayne Brown, Eric Fisher, those kind of guys. And Eric Fisher, I'd maybe have a little bit of interest in just because, I mean, he can play that left tackle position if you need him to. He's maybe, after his injury, got a year under his belt from that injury. I think he could be decent again, at least an average tackle if you had one of your guys go down. That's kind of my concern right now. Garrett Bowles goes down. Who do you got? Calvin Anderson, I guess, can play that left tackle spot, and he's done okay when he's called for spot duty, but I still wouldn't feel great about it at that point. And he's obviously going to be competing for that right tackle spot, so maybe he's even already starting. You got Billy Turner going to be right there as well in that competition. I think he'll end up winning that one. Chase Wellner saying Riley Reef is another one. He's played left tackle, right tackle. So there's still some decent names out there that have done okay, but I mean, they're still always going to be below average at this point.
Yeah, it's that bargain shopping you're kind of talking about earlier, and we're going to see those injuries stack up here in training camp, unfortunately, for teams. Hopefully the Broncos aren't one of them, but history is definitely gives the Broncos no favors at the offensive tackle position. That right tackle thing, for whatever reason, it's haunted. I don't know. Well, it's just the Broncos can't seem to figure that one out. But when you've got Russell Wilson, hey, life is good, and we're not going to complain. I gotta talk about something I'm seeing in the comments here a lot, and we're talking about positions of depth, and I'm seeing it over and over and over, saying the defensive secondary is just stacked full of guys. I would not want to trade anybody in that secondary. George Payton will tell you a million times over that cornerback is a premium position in this league, and he's finally got a ton of them. I mean, heck, Vic Fangio's best truth was saying you could never have enough cornerbacks, and he's right. And I finally feel like the Broncos have that figured out. That being said, I don't want to get rid of a single one of them. I love them all, Carl. Let's keep them all.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got guys that have injury histories. Darby has played 1 season fully healthy so far. Quan Williams is another one that hasn't always stayed very healthy.
Darby, it's because he cut his hair, man. I know it's that strength, those Samson lock strength. As soon as Darby cut his hair, man, bad things happened. And I'm a superstitious guy, a kind of stitious guy, you know?
Yeah, there you go. I'm a little stitious.
Yeah.
But and then you got Ojemudia that missed most of last season. So you're right. I don't want to trade anybody. The Broncos the last couple years, that's been one of their worst positions for injuries, where they're getting guys off the streets have to come in and play. And they did okay because the scheme kind of played where you kind of cover up some of that for them. But at the same time, it's still not great.
Until Justin Herbert sees Parnell Motley out there, you know, and that was one of my guys at the Shrine game I was looking at as an undrafted guy. When he got here, I was like, right on. But then, I mean, just the jump from a starting corner to, you know, a nickel or dime or supplemental slot guy, it's insane. And you can see that when you look at Pat Surtain and the ability he has to play every position on the defensive backfield, and can't wait to see how special he is. But Broncos country is right. They've been bringing it up in the comment section all night, multiple folks. Michael Ojemudia has really turned some heads. I don't know why he was in Vic Fangio's doghouse. He claims it was tackling, but I feel like Vic almost broke this kid, and I don't know why. I shouldn't call him a kid. He's a grown man. But I've always had an intrigue factor with Michael Ojemudia. I think he's a smart player. I think sometimes he's a little too emotional, and some bonehead things can happen with him. But it seems like somebody, maybe it was defensive coordinator Evero, put his arm around this young man and was like, hey, let's pick it up. And since then, we've been hearing rave reviews. And my dad asked me actually on Father's Day weekend, happy belated Father's Day to Carl and all you dads, Scott out there. He said, do you think they're trying to run up the value on Ojemudia? And I hadn't considered that. I really hadn't. And I saw it in the questions here tonight, but I wanted to ask you, what's your opinion of Michael Ojemudia or expectations for training camp?
I liked him coming out of college. He was a raw player, hadn't played the position very long, but you saw a lot of the intelligence where he just really grew during his time there at Iowa. And I think he's got the athleticism. I think he's got the size, and he just had to get the knowledge of the game down. And you saw it his rookie year. He was kind of one of those very up and down players, but the Broncos left him on an island.
Yeah.
For being a rookie, 3rd round pick, guy that's still learning the position, the Broncos really put him in some pretty tough spots. And there were times, obviously, he got burned. But there are other times where he really showed well, stuck with some pretty tough wide receivers one-on-one, and didn't completely look lost on the field. You know, missed some tackles, but like I said, I really thought he had some great promise moving forward.
I would agree with that. And I think sometimes people want to bunch him into maybe the Isaac Yiadom type role where it had some flash and now we're going downhill. I don't think we're there yet. And I think that he's done a 180 and he's turning this thing around. I'm really curious to see what he has in training camp. He needs to bring it. I mean, he's fighting for his job too. You've got a rookie DB out there from, was it Iowa? No, I'm talking about Ojemudia now. The rookie DB, the corner that they got this year that everybody's raving about.
Mathis?
Or is he a safety? Can't remember.
Pittsburgh is where he went.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, Ojemudia is fighting for a job here, but I don't think it's over for him. I like his intellect a lot. He's a very smart player, and I think maybe he just needed a different coach. I heard a really interesting thing from a coworker a long time ago, and I've always kind of taken it with me. I think sometimes it's applicable, other times it's not. And he said, people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses. And I just find that really interesting because Mike Tomlin released a quote out there today talking about something along the lines of, whenever coaches say that this player is non-coachable, I always ask, how receptive are you to change? And I think that's really interesting because we as grown men, as adults, as women, as children of the earth, we have got to look inward to truly improve ourselves. And I think that's something that Michael Ojemudia has done. You don't need a promo video to do it. You don't need to say that you're doing it on Twitter. Show up to training camp and do it, because right now you've got red hot momentum coming off of OTAs and mandatory minicamp.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, I think we're going to start wrapping it up here a little bit, but we really appreciate once again all of you joining us. I see we're up to the 31. Boom. Got ourselves a Justin Simmons number up there. Appreciate it, all of you. Ooh. Got past that Terrell Davis number. And but again, appreciate you tuning in here. Make sure you guys are following us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Demler MHH, Luke at Luke Patterson LP. Scott, of course, at Scout Kennedy. Make sure you guys are also heading up there to huddleuppod.com. Check out all the gear that we have. Guys, we got some great stuff out there. I've had multiple people comment on my hat as I'm walking down the street, just going, "Oh, that's a cool hat." My daughter's teacher she's a Broncos fan. I was going, "I really like that hat. I really want to get that." And I said, "Hey, head over to Huddle Up Pod." Make sure also that you guys are on Facebook, looking up facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. That's where you guys can be kept updated on all the pods that we have going on, because we've added a lot here these last couple weeks. I know we got Kim Becker. What else have we added here?
We got Beckoning the Broncos in the morning, along with those Broncos for breakfast cats. Scott Kennedy, Nick Kendall, obviously running that ship. You've got Thomas Hall, Legends of Mile High, on Friday mornings as well. And speaking of Justin Simmons, you can go ahead and check out Thomas Hall's exclusive interview, one-on-one with Justin Simmons. Thomas Hall is on an absolute red streak right now. First Carl Mecklenburg, and then Justin Simmons. Who's next? Russell Wilson? I don't know. We'll just have to figure it out, man. But Carl's exactly right. We appreciate everybody on facebook.com/Mile High Huddle Pod. And yours truly will be back tomorrow with Nick. You'll be free to ask him where he's been, what kind of wedding dancing he's been doing, the funky chicken, all that kind of stuff. I know he's been posting pictures and looking dapper in his what is that, suspenders and bow tie. Nick's got some James Palmer to him. I've always said that.
I can see that. But make sure you're also heading over to @Mile High Huddle, at BTB Football Pod as well. That's our one that Building the Broncos that we have here. And make sure you guys, if you're heading over to Apple Podcasts, make sure you leave a review. I mean, we appreciate the 5-star reviews if you feel like we've earned it, for sure. We read all of that. We really appreciate all the feedback we can possibly get. Reach out to us again on Twitter, DM us, whatever you want to do. We love talking football all the time. My wife all the time is just like, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing?" Earlier, I was playing some retro football on my phone, and all three of my kids are like huddled around me, like touching the screen and messing up my games. Almost cost me a game against the Chiefs. And my wife's like, "Oh my gosh, you're going to have all these football fans in this house, and it's just going to be football all the time." Yes, that is the case. So make sure you guys are hitting us up every chance you get. Again, thank you guys for just tuning in today, getting this chance to talk a little bit of Bronco football, maybe some team building. And it's just going to be interesting to see what the Broncos do moving forward. Do they have any more moves they're going to do? We don't know. Maybe this is the roster they're going to go into the season with. If so, I feel really good about it. I mean, we're nitpicking here a little bit today. That's what we can do with this month between OTAs, mini camp, to that of training camp. I know, Luke, you're going to be out there at training camp pretty much every day, right?
Yeah, man, every day. I'll be there sweating. Make sure you come and say hello. It's going to be red hot in terms of the temperature and just the crowd. Last year, Carl, I mean, it was sad. I've never seen anything like it. This year, I know people who are personally prepared to camp out overnight and be in line to see Russell Wilson and the 2022 Denver Broncos.
So there you go. Make sure you're hitting up Luke. I'll be there at least a few days this summer. Yep. I'm not sure exactly when yet, but we'll get it figured out. We'd love to meet up with you guys, meet face-to-face, get a chance just to say thank you for all the support that you guys give us every single day. And with that, everybody, we appreciate it again. Have a great evening. And thank you for tuning in to Building the Broncos. As Nick always says, choose kindness, choose compassion, and go Broncos.